Hi, everybody. Welcome to Christian Homestead. My name is Jared. This day has finally come. I've been so curious to see what it looks like inside the new visitor center at Temple Square. We've had some idea what it was going to be like. A long time ago, we read a Deseret News article that talked about the fact that it was going to have full size replica rooms of the temple inside the visitor center. And now we know what that looks like. I'm about to show you. And they are, in fact, full size, and it's not just one or two rooms. It's really impressive. And it's not just the full scale replicas of these rooms of the temple, but there's so much more here than what I realized was going to be here. So we're looking at a Deseret News article. An immersive new Temple Square Visitor Center opens in May. What to know? So it starts off by showing you the room that has the Christus. I don't know if this is the same Christus as the one that was in the North Visitor Center before it got torn down, or at least it's not on the same pedestal. So I'm curious about that. But you can see you have these really large windows and you have a great view of the temple there in the background. This article is by Tad Walsh. A new immersive Temple Square Visitor Center will open next month and provide a unique experience to millions who come to the centerpiece of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I want to emphasize this, millions, because back in 2024, we had this talk from Elder Gary E. Stevenson called Days Never to Be Forgotten. And he talked about the fact that this decade, from 2024 to 2034, would be a decade unlike any other, except perhaps the decade of 1820 to 1830. And the reason he said that is because of all the exposure that the church is going to have. He pointed out that President Nelson's 100th birthday celebration reached a very large audience. It exposed many people to the church that may not have known anything about the church. We had that. He talked about all the renovations at Temple Square. He specifically pointed out the church office building plaza and that that's really important. And then he went on to talk about all these temple open houses that we're going to have because of all of the temples that have been announced and are under construction. Not the least of which is the Salt Lake Temple with its renovation and its open house next year. That's going to go all the way from April until October. It's a very long open house. He points out that there's going to be tens of millions of people touring these temple open houses. And in addition to that, for the people that come to the Salt Lake Temple for the open house, they're also going to get to go to the visitor center and see a lot more. It's actually going to be almost like two temple open houses because, like I said, you have the full-scale replicas of temple rooms in the visitor center, and they don't seem to match the Salt Lake Temple. I'll show you in just a minute. And then he pointed out the bicentennial in 2030. That's obviously going to be a big deal. And then the Winter Olympics coming back to Salt Lake in 2034. So that's just one of the many reasons I'm excited about the visitor center is a lot of people are going to go through it. And a lot of people are going to discover the church this way and feel the spirit, especially with the replicas of the temple rooms. All right, continuing. The two-story center will offer the first walkthrough experience of a temple outside of the generally brief public open houses held right after a temple is completed or renovated. President Dieter F. Uchtdorf, acting president of the church's Quorum of the 12 Apostles, dedicated the new visitor center Monday morning. So today, it was dedicated today. Quote, "This morning, I dedicated the visitor center and consecrated it to the purpose of the proclaiming of the gospel of Jesus Christ to all those who come," he said. Okay, later on, here's a picture of the replica of the celestial room. And it's not a replica of the Salt Lake Temple celestial room. I don't know if this is from a specific temple. You'll have to let me know. Do you recognize this celestial room, or is this unique to the visitor center? If it is a replica of an actual celestial room of some specific temple, it looks like it would be maybe for a smaller temple. Well, maybe not. I don't think that they would do the Salt Lake Temple celestial room because It's pretty large compared to this, and so it costs more money, and it just wouldn't be necessary, I don't think. But I'm really impressed because when we first read about the fact that they would have these replicas, this was like a couple years ago. I was wondering if they were going to be scaled down, just much smaller, not an actual full scale replica. But no, they're full scale, and you can see it right here. So that's pretty incredible. I'm wondering if, even though it's part of the visitor center, I wonder if they would have you wear like the plastic booty things that you put over your shoes to keep the carpet clean, or maybe they would have like a walkway, like those like plastic walkway things, and you have to like stay on that. I don't know. I guess we'll see how that goes. But isn't that pretty incredible? Because think about it. Essentially, what you're looking at is a perpetually open temple open house. Um, like it'll always be there, I guess, unless the church decides to change it. But you're going to have an open house essentially every day of the year. And I wonder if they're going to do this with other visitor centers. There are other temples that have visitor centers, like the Mesa, Arizona temple, the Nauvoo, Illinois temple. It has a new visitor center that's going in. I haven't heard anything about, temple room replicas, but maybe they'll do that in the future. I think that's a really good idea. Okay, here's some key points about the opening of this visitor center. Free reservations. The center will open May 18th. You can make free reservations for a 30-minute inside a temple tour experience at ticketing.churchofjesuschrist.org. Iconic exhibits. The upper level has a statue of Jesus Christ and an updated cutaway scale model of the Salt Lake Temple. So that's a question that I had. Was this temple model that's currently in the conference center, was this going to go back to the visitor center? And I guess not. I'm guessing they're going to keep this in the conference center. This is where it was, at least in September when I shot this. I had access to the conference center. And I've always loved this. I love models. I love miniatures. It has like little lights inside, and it's very, very detailed. And I think it was last month I did a video talking about the fact that they're closing down the conference center except for essential programs and for like general conference. But otherwise, it's going to be closed because it's going to go through a renovation in preparation for the open house of the Salt Lake Temple. So I'm excited to see what that's going to look like, because the conference center itself is like a big visitor center. But my guess is going to be that they're going to keep this model in the conference center. And then if you go to the video that the church just posted on its YouTube channel, it shows you the new model. In fact, it has its own room. It's called Temple, like above the door, it says Temple Model. And look at this. It looks very, very similar, of course. I guess it would, because it's very detailed. But it not only has the temple, but it also has the temple entrance buildings on the north side. And then it also has a cutaway right here of, I don't know what this is called, this extension of the Salt Lake Temple. I feel like I've read the name of it before, but they didn't have this before, a cutaway of this part of the temple. So this is really, 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 like, to me, this is really, really, really neat. And then here's at the end of the video, they end by going to the room that has the Christus. I'm assuming that this is a different Christus than what was in the North Visitor Center before it was torn down, because for one thing, it's on a different pedestal, unless they like shaped it differently. And it looks like the Christus is attached to the pedestal. So I'm thinking that this is different. But look how amazing this looks. I love the contrast of, you have this like white stone or well, I don't know if it's marble. I don't know my building materials, but you have the white stone of the Christus, and then in the background, at least during this time of day, you have the dark blue as the sun is going down. And then the Salt Lake Temple lit up in the background and these amazing large windows that you can look through. It's so these Christuses I think are very important. The last few times I've gone to Utah, I've gone to the Provo City Center Temple, and I didn't know until I went there the first time that they have like a little. It's not a visitor center, but kind of like a pavilion type thing that has a Christus inside, and it's very good for people that want to be close to the Lord. Maybe people who don't currently have a temple recommend. Maybe people that aren't members of the church, but they can feel the Spirit when they come to these places. So I think that this is really important. All right, going back to the Desert News article, walk through replicas. Okay, this is like the one thing I'm probably the most excited about because I've never seen this before in my life. The lower level features full-sized walk-through replicas of sacred temple ordinance rooms, including the baptismal, instruction, sealing and celestial rooms. I guess I didn't need to. I was going through this too quick. I didn't need to highlight ordinance rooms. It has the list as baptismal room or baptismal font and room, instruction, sealing, and celestial rooms. Okay. So that was one of the big questions that I had on top of, is it going to be actual full size rooms? And then, either way, how many rooms are they going to depict? Is it just going to be like a celestial room or maybe 2 rooms? No, it's basically all the rooms. There's this part where this thing like mechanically opens up. I don't know if that's going to be how it is every time. I think it is. I think there's like a sensor up here. I think that these are like sensors, and as you walk toward the entrance of the temple replica area, this opens up. It's like a screen. It plays like a video. It opens up. It reveals the door to the quote unquote temple. You almost have like a little replica here of an entrance of a temple. And then you go inside, and it's a replica of the recommend desk. So it's not just ordinance rooms. It's also the entrance to a replica to an entrance to a temple and where you show your temple recommend. They went that far with it. And then you have the baptismal font. And this does look like a full scale. Sorry, I need to stop saying that. Of course, it's full scale. That's been established. But with the baptismal font, there's actually water inside of it. So that's another thing I guess I maybe wouldn't have guessed is that they could have just done it without water and it probably would have been fine. But no, they want you to really feel like you're actually in the temple and see what it's like. So, sorry, it's just like it's incredible to me that they did this. And then they have, an ordinance room with the veil right there and altar and everything. And then, of course, the celestial room replica. And then here's a sealing room. I can't believe it. I wish I could be there. There's certain people that are getting access to it right now, like influencers. There's like a media day. In fact, my friend Caitlin with Anticipating Christ's Return, she texted and said that she's going there today. So she'll have her own pictures and video of it. So make sure to check that out. But for me, in Independence, Missouri, this is the best that I can do. But the church put together a really good video here. And then you have this kind of, I don't know, maybe this is like once you're done going through the rooms, but it still feels temple-like right here. Oh my goodness. Okay, the next one, art glass windows. New stained glass depicts scenes from the life of Christ, including his ministry to children as recorded in 3 Nephi 17 and his appearance to Mary Magdalene. I did a recent video about this, and unfortunately not many people watched it, probably because I didn't pick the right title and thumbnail, because you have to play that game when you do YouTube. But I would encourage you to watch this video because I felt like that was significant. It made me think about, and I'll put the link for this in the description box below. It made me think about 3 Nephi and the multiple appearances of Christ when he came to the Nephites. And I realized for the first time, and I think this was after talking to my friend Mindy with Temples of Jesus, that maybe this is a pattern in a foreshadowing of the second coming, how we're going to have our multiple appearances of Christ, Adam Adiyam in the New Jerusalem. And I actually put together a spreadsheet to go over this. I plan to return to this at some point, but one thing I want to point out while we're here, it's interesting how he had three main appearances across 3 days. Those are like the three big parts that are talked about in his appearance. And each time with each appearance, there's more and more people. So the first appearance was only to about 2,500 people, like a relatively small group. And then all night, after Christ left, they went through the country, spreading the news like, hey, he's going to come back tomorrow. And so the next day, there was a much larger group, so large that it was divided into 12 bodies. And then you had the 12 disciples who like preached to each of the 12 bodies of people. So it just, I think there's something there. But anyway, watch this video if you want to hear what I have to say about, the stained glass and all that. Okay. And then the last bullet point, unobstructed views. 2 ground level glass encased pavilions offer direct sight lines of the Salt Lake Temple. Sorry, the Salt Lake Temple from the south side. So yeah, that's what we saw here in the Christus room. And then the room that kind of parallels that or corresponds to that is the model room, where you have the model of the Salt Lake Temple and its 2 entrances, and then the actual Salt Lake Temple beyond that as you look through the glass. Okay. The celebration of the completed renovation of the Salt Lake Temple will be a public open house that will run every day from April 5th, 2027 to October 1st, 2027. Free reservations to tour the renovated temple begin on September 1st, 2026. So if you're somebody that likes to be one of the first ones to experience something, this is the date that you want to look at. September 1st. That's when you can get reservations to tour the Salt Lake Temple. I definitely plan on going there myself. I don't think I'll be able to take pictures or video inside because I don't think that's usually permitted. But I'll definitely get pictures and video of the visitor center and Temple Square. I'll do a big thing. So next year it's going to be exciting. Okay. Later on, this is something that President Emily Belle Freeman said, the Young Women General President. You may think you have been to a visitor center experience with us before, and I'm going to tell you, this is not that. This is a visitor center experience like you have never had before. Yeah, I'll say, we already kind of did our own little tour using the church's video. But I've never seen anything like this. Oh, there's another part. Well, we're getting to it. Okay. So full-scale replica of Temple Baptistry, complete with water. And then they have this. If all that wasn't enough, everything that we've seen so far, they have this. A display of 11 built-to-scale miniature temples on the lower level of the Temple Square Visitor Center represents the global footprint of houses of the Lord. I love this. They're all white, which is fine. They're not like, they're not painted or made to look like the actual temples, just in shape only. They kind of look like tiny 3D temples. They're the ones that have sponsored me, and I plan on getting one of their Kansas City, Missouri temples. But this is really cool. I wish I had a collection of like temples like this. I wish I had like a big collection. I wish I had every single temple and I could have it like behind me in the background of my videos. Let's go back to the church's video. They have They have, yeah, here you go. Look at that. Okay, let's see if I can tell which each one is. So we got the Salt Lake Temple. This one looks like the Cambodian temple. I can't remember what the name of the city is, but it looks like the one in Cambodia. This one, maybe that's the Boston, Massachusetts temple. So I can't really zoom in. I can't tell that. That one looks like the Samoa temple. This one right here is definitely the Rome, Italy temple. This one, I'm not sure. I'm guessing there is a zoom in of that. This looks like it's like the Spanish mission architectural style. I don't know if this is like the Tucson, Arizona temple or one from Texas or Mexico or some other place. And then of course you have the Washington D.C. temple. Here, let's go back to this view. This one is the Alberta, Canada. This one I'm certain is the Tokyo, Japan temple. Washington, D.C. And then at the very end, that's definitely the Nauvoo, Illinois temple. So yeah, this is very visually appealing. The fact that they're all white and then just the screens behind, like it all looks like the glow of all of it. It just looks really good. And then they have other things too. There's this display and this globe. It's like a touchscreen thing where it's a touchscreen. So you like move the globe, but it's not a physical globe that you're moving. It's a digital globe. But there's some kind of display right here. There's another, oops, where'd it go? Here's another statue of Christ. One that's not the Christus. And then you have this too. I'm pretty sure they had something like this in the old visitor center that features the church's welfare program and humanitarian efforts and such. So you have that. I think that's pretty much it. Let's go back and finish up this article. And then at this point, it points out that this new model of the Salt Lake Temple is motorized. It moves. There's like a wall that comes down. So it's kind of like an interactive display type thing. And you can see that if we go back here, we go back to the model room, you can see how these walls, like for the north entrance right here, or this one, I don't know what it's called, the extension, the annex, I'm not sure. These, you push a button and then the wall comes down and then you can see inside the model. And then it shows it in operation here. You can see it moving. So neat. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. And then the article mentioned that the church launched a new website today. This is templesquare.org. So I guess this is where you want to go for everything having to do with the open house and the new visitor center and other things taking place at Temple Square. This part says stay informed, coming soon. Opening May 18th, the visitor center. I haven't really looked on this very much. Explore. And then it points you to the different buildings that you can see and places that you can visit when you come to Temple Square. There's a lot. I need to make more videos for my other channel called Explore Church Sites. So cool. So cool. Explore. Let's see, map. Let's see what this looks like. Yeah, it has all the basically everything that we were whoa. Everything that we were just looking at. Cool. And it has like a thing here. Can you turn? Yeah, you can. You can rotate it. That's awesome. Awesome. Let me zoom out. Yeah, so everything like right here on these several blocks, of course. Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that you're as excited about it as I am. I hope that you go to see this, whether you live in Utah or you live outside of Utah. I think that this would be worth your trip. I would definitely go to the open house. And then if it's like a church-wide rededication that's broadcast, I would definitely make sure to participate in that. So right now, if you're not temple worthy, if you don't have a temple recommend, I would take the steps necessary to prepare. You should do that anyway, regardless of the rededication of the Salt Lake Temple. But I'm just saying that's an event I don't think you want to miss. And I tend to think that it has to do with the second coming, regardless of whether there's, appearances, visions, visitations, I don't know. But I still think that it has something to do with the second coming timeline. Please don't miss it. Okay, that's going to be it for this one. I'll talk to you guys later.